Hey friends, it's your pal Mike Shea from Sly Flourish, here with another episode of Sly Flourish's Lazy GM Prep. In this show, I go through steps from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master while preparing for my Sunday role-playing game. In this case, I am playing a long-form campaign in the RPG Shadowdark using Curse Scroll 1, both available from Arcane Library, in the world of the Gloaming, which is the setting that's inside Curse Scroll 1. This show is brought to you by the patrons of Sly Flourish. Patrons get access to all kinds of awesome tools to help them run their RPGs, adventures to run their RPGs, access to the incredible Lazy RPG, Lazy GM community we have over on Discord, and they help me put on shows like this. If you are watching this video on Friday, we're getting ready for the City of Arches Kickstarter. The City of Arches is a high fantasy city sourcebook for lazy GMs built around 5e, but also other fantasy role-playing games. It is a project I have been working on. Patrons of Sly Flourish have seen this project grow from a small, 12-page document into the book that it is now. The Kickstarter is funding artwork and editing and layout and physical production, the actual printing of the books. The Kickstarter is going to be launching on August 6th, and you can find out all about it by clicking the Notify Me on Launch. In the show notes, there's a link to Kickstarter. Click that, click on Notify Me on Launch, and you will be notified when this Kickstarter goes live. And when it goes live, you will have access to the 42-page preview of the City of Arches, which includes an introduction scenario, big descriptions of what the city's about and what's going on there, examples of all the kinds of awesome stuff you're going to see, examples of all the artwork, and a playable introduction scenario and a playable adventure that can get you a good feeling of what the City of Arches is all about. I could not be more excited about this project. I'm so happy to move this along. The project is really far along, and you can help me take it over the finish line to get it to your table. So please click on the Kickstarter, click on Notify Me, and be notified when the Kickstarter goes live. Oh boy, did things happen in the last session's game. Where to start? Well, Moragin is dead. I can start with that. Moragin, who had survived 35 sessions of this game, was disintegrated on the blade of Memnon's entropic blade being wielded by Olgar, the champion of Ramlot. So that happened. But it's even worse than that. This was the layout. I actually told my players, hey, I have a nice Dwarven Forge setup. If we can wait a week, we can use the Dwarven Forge setup. And so we did. And this was the setup. We have the character. Actually, none of the characters are on this map yet, but there's a whole bunch of orcs, orc followers of Ramlot. There's these two abyssal eviscerators of Ramlot, and then Olgar, the champion of Ramlot, is in the back. That's a statue of Ramlot in the far back here. That multi-armed statue, which actually is of Hextor, but it's it'll work. It works fine for Ramlot. And there's lava, and there's lots of things going on here. So we began with that. The characters kick in the door, or the characters walk in, and I did a fun thing, which was I told them that, so they were brought into the situation because they had been working out a deal with with Olgar's second in command, who was like a hobgoblin wizard, and they told him hey, you actually want to be the boss. We can put you on top as the boss, but you need to work against Ramlot or against Olgar. So why don't you bring us in against Olgar? And he's like, sure. So he came in with the characters, and then I told the players, let's go into, what was in there, Crash or something like that. They said, let's go into Crash's mind, the wizard, for a moment. He's thinking do I work with these characters against Olgar, or do I feed the characters to Olgar? And it's about a 50-50 shot. So then I said, okay. And I had one of the players roll a 50-50 shot on whether the guy was going to betray him or not. So that way, I told them about the betrayal. None of them were particularly surprised that they might be betrayed. And I told them what the odds were, and then I had them roll it. So I was I'm just sitting here, right? It's not up to Mike Shea to decide whether or not they're betrayed. You guys are deciding whether or not to be betrayed. And they rolled, and they rolled for betrayal. And they went, oh, inevitable betrayal. And he said, Olgar, I have brought these people here. They have come to try to assassinate you and to try to take over as champions of Ramlot. But I brought them to you so we can stop them right here. And then he winks at the characters we're still good. We're still good. And he had these two bodyguards who were wielding their glaives and making a lot of kung fu moves with the blades just to look like they were fighting the characters, but they weren't really fighting. So the characters then began to fight, but immediately they saw the eviscerated body of the sorcerer, Haldren, who is Moragin's father. So Morgan immediately saw that her father, who they'd come here to rescue, is already dead and like torn open, and it's awful. He's totally dead. And they're like, oh my God, we got all the way here and he's dead. Like, you know, and there was the moment of like the players being like, oh my God, he's dead. And then they saw that Olgar would periodically put one of his claw hands on that big pedestal thing, this guy, and talk to it. And I know, like, these are very smart players, right? These players are GMs themselves. They know what's going on. Like, oh, I bet you Haldren's spirit is in that thing. They didn't say it because they're in character. They didn't say it, but they did say, like, you know, they went, oh, but they saw Haldren is dead. So then they're fighting and everything's going crazy. Here's an actual, like, you can see people are flying. Like, this is one of the characters flying. These guys are in the back kind of doing stuff. I'll tell you, this corner saw a lot of action. Like this corner of the section here on the lower left-hand side, that one definitely saw a lot of action. I didn't have Olgar immediately go in. He kind of held his eviscerators back. So I kind of ran it as a multi-phase fight where until the eviscerators started getting hit, they chewed through the orcs with no problem. So I remember, like, I was like, okay, and this is, you know, I'm violating Shadowdark rules, I think, or certainly breaking Shadowdark ideals, where I literally changed the stat block of the eviscerators on the fly. From originally they were going to be like panthers, and I'm like, they'll just eat through these panthers. I'm like, let's make them owlbears. So I made each one of them a level 3 owlbear. Now they were actually hitting, they had a little hit points, they would last a little while. So I was tuning the fight using the Sly Flourish lazy GM dials of monster difficulty, which I think tends to go away from the OSR style of whatever hits the table. But it was still fun, and I think it made the battle more interesting. And they didn't wipe out. Boy, but they came close, though. So then they're fighting stuff. Finally, they started hitting the eviscerators. I think they actually did get in a battle with the mage. I can't remember exactly what happened with the mage, but finally, like, the fake betrayal, he kept pretending he was like betraying them, but then not betraying them. And they're like, well, if he does damage to us, it's done. And then eventually he did. He fireballed and hit one of them for a little bit of damage. They're like, okay, we're done. And they all got in a big fight and took care of his guys. But then the big thing was there's a sphere of annihilation here too. The statue of Ramlot was holding a sphere of annihilation, and they had some tool that they could use in order to manipulate the sphere of annihilation. So Olgar comes walking out. Olgar's talking to it. He realizes, oh wait, Moragin is Haldren's daughter, and Moragin brought the obsidian witch knife with her. The obsidian witch knife is what I can use to enter the world of Ramlot and use my Memnon entropic blade and kill Ramlot, because it's a god-slaying sword, and then I can become a new god. That was Olgar's plan. And so Olgar's like, I want that dagger. So Moragin, seeing that Olgar wants the dagger, Morgan goes ahead of all the other characters, and the player who's playing Morgan said, like, you know, for all of this time, I've realized that Morgan has been protected by all of the other characters, and they've fought on her behalf, and this is her time to stand for her friends. And so she stands in front of her friends, and she holds out the witch knife and like wields it, and Olgar, you know, storms over to her, this big 4-armed Glabrezo. He took one of the other characters and crushed him in a claw and almost threw him in the lava, but I think that he got away somehow. He managed to snake away before he got thrown into lava. But he's got these 2 huge crab claws plus 2 humanoid claws that are wielding this entropic blade. So Morgan's standing there, and Olgar walks over to her and says, give me that dagger. Like, if you give me that dagger, you know, everything's fine. And she's like, F you. No, I'll give it to you when I stab you in the belly with it. And he's like, all right. And he grabs her with a claw, crushes her in the claw, takes her to 0 with a claw attack, and then runs her through with the entropic blade. The entropic blade, for funsies, let's go look up the entropic blade. It's under our gear here. Memnon's discordant blade. The entropic armor and discordant blade. So, once per day, you can utterly annihilate one creature level 9 or less that you damage with this blade. The creature can pass a DC 18 Constitution check to take 3d8 damage instead. So Olgar runs Moragin through with the discordant blade. And the way I described it, I said, and you're disintegrated. Moragin is utterly annihilated, right? They're completely destroyed, utterly annihilated. And everyone's like, oh, right? Like, all the players are yelling at, and the player is like badass. Like, they were on board with this heroic death. But everyone else is like, oh my God, Morgan's dead. And it was only, and there was also a scream that came out of that crazy glowing pillar thing, because the pillar thing has the soul of Haldren in it. And Haldren just saw his own daughter eviscerated and destroyed upon the discordant blade. So then we went around a little bit there was no bargaining, there was no denial, that everybody kind of read. But then I forgot about the Constitution saving throw. And I said, oh, you know what? I forgot about this Constitution saving throw. So I said, you know what? Roll a DC 18 Constitution saving throw. And the player rolls a 1. And I'm like, yeah, that's it. Like Morrigan's utterly gone. Nothing will restore Moragin back to life. She's completely gone. And everyone's like, yeah, oh, that fits. For fun, this is Morrigan's Hero Forge printed character that the player had printed. As somebody brought up, it's a gutsy move to 3D print a Hero Forge version of your mini in a Shadowdark game. And the player did say, like, this is a memento. This is not a token that I plan on using. This is a memento of this character who I've enjoyed. So and that was before they got disintegrated upon a blade of a discordant blade. So not only was Moragin utterly destroyed, but Moragin never had a reunion with Haldren, her father. And so at this point, we had some shenanigans with the Sphere of Annihilation. The characters had they have these big gloves that the wizard gave to them. And that was another one where I said, let's roll. He's got gloves that could do it, but he also has just cooking mitts. Which ones did he actually give you? Did he give you the cooking mitts or did he give you the actual ones? And it turned out he gave the actual ones, which gives them advantage on the check to manipulate the Sphere of Annihilation. So they started manipulating the sphere, and Olgar started manipulating the sphere as well. And so the two of them are fighting over the sphere. I think that they did that with the wizard. They threw it at the wizard. The wizard tried to control it. And now there's a sphere wobbling in space that they're both pushing towards one another like the Force. And then the wizard failed it and hit the wizard, and boom, the wizard is turned to ash. So then they go, and Olgar now has the discordant blade, and he has the dagger, the obsidian witch knife, which can let him go to another world. And he's like, I have this stuff and I have the power. And then the other wizard in our group hits him with the Sphere of Annihilation and destroys Olgar completely. So Olgar, I don't think he took 5 damage out of 40 some hit points, but he was completely destroyed by the Sphere of Annihilation. So that was the end of Olgar. They mopped up everybody else. And then they went to that central pillar, this guy here, that's Olgar in the back by the Glabrezo Olgar. They went back to the central pillar after they kind of mopped up everybody else and realized that Haldren is in there, and Haldren is totally destroyed. I did all of this to protect my daughter, and she came here and she was destroyed, and this is my fault. I set things up. I never should have done this. This is weird. And they're like, what can we do? And he's like, you can destroy this vessel that I'm in. And they're like, well, won't that destroy you? And he's like, I can't stand what has happened. I can't take it. And I'm already dead. My daughter is dead. My wife is dead. Everyone everyone I care about is gone. Just please destroy this thing. And one of the players said, in character, they said, neither Gwendolyn, your wife, or Moragin, your daughter, would have wanted you to give up, and the world can still fight on. And he's like, okay. And so they find in one of those ossuaries there on the left, they found the Book of the Dead, the Book of Libris Mortis, the Book of the Dead, which had 3 different undeady sort of spells in there, including a create undead spell, a powerful create undead spell. And so because the soul vessel is this super powerful artifact, they were able to use it on it and basically restore Haldren as a lich. So now Haldren is a lich of the original Haldren. And then they saw that, after finding out that Olgar was destroyed and that Crag, or whatever his name was, the mage, is destroyed, there's nobody in lead. So that means all of these feuds and packs, all these different feuds are taking place all throughout the castle that they're in. So they no longer have to worry about any of the other groups that are inside the castle, except maybe getting out, which could be a strong start for today's game. But basically, we ended in this chamber. Haldren is dead, but now returned as a lich. Moragin is dead. A new kobold ran in named Scree, who's a kobold rogue, I think. And Scree is the new character for the player who played Moragin. And the player was super happy, super excited to have a new character. So they were fine, but Scree came in 10 seconds after Moragin was slain. So I have a feeling that the player of Moragin was more than happy to have a switch to a new character of Scree. But that makes the 17th character, which we should put here on the Glorious Dead. This is probably the most glorious is Moragin impaled and disintegrated upon Olgar's. I guess we could say on Memnon's. Impaled and disintegrated upon Memnon. We can remove the shirt. I have players that actually have shirts that on the backs that had the Restless Dead. So that's the 17th dead character in this campaign that we've been running. Look at the backstory. I can just remove this whole. That doesn't matter anymore. All that backstory gone. And now we have Scree, Kobold. I think is it Kobold Fighter or Rogue? I don't remember. So I think Tribble is dead. Isn't Tribble dead? Tribble's dead. I don't know. I think Laird is dead too. I don't think Laird lasted very long. I'm trying to remember who the character is that is now wielding the Discordant Blade. And I don't remember. We'll take a look at my notes. So I need to create new notes for today's session. So the big question for today is, how do they get... They know what the rest of the path is. We'll outline that. Irina. Yeah, so we have Irina. It should be in the character listing. I think this is all correct. Although I think Laird is dead. No, Laird's not dead. Tribble was cut in half by a Dralic. So we have our characters today. I think Uralt is not going to be there, but I think everybody else is. And the strong start is the battles of Last Watch. So Last Watch is in chaos, right? And I think we're going to... Did I have random rolls for Last Watch before? I don't know if I had them in here. I didn't, because I knew it was just going to be a great big fight. So I didn't worry about it. But I can do... So we can do like a quick... What did I do? There we go. I can do like a quick random table of like... We can put this in monsters, actually. We'll do it here. And we'll have a... So we have escaped prisoners could be one group. We could have Orcs of Ramlot. What other inhabitants did we have? I know we had a bunch. Let's see. I think it might have had it in a list under locations in Last Watch. Did I have a... No, I didn't. I know I had it somewhere. Maybe it was a week before. Let's go to my old session notes. This would be on July 1st, June 30th. I swear I had some like random encounters for Last Watch. I had inhabitants, I'm pretty sure. Like who was where, but whatever. We'll just make up new ones. So we have Orcs of Ramlot. We have escaped prisoners. We could have some like wild... Do they have hellhounds? Does Shadowdark have hellhounds? They do. Hellhounds are 4. So we could have some escaped hellhounds. I'd like to have another... So I think there'd be like a 2 in 6 chance of having something good happen. Escaping servants. So they're not non-violent servants. Devouring wyvern. And we could have like ogre sappers, not blade masters exactly, but like centurions. That might be cool. Like, is there anybody else that would be like, who would, in the chaos of the situation, who else is running around? Jim Puka says 2 and 6 sounds high. What about 1 and 3? Yeah. So that would be some good things. And we will roll on the distance and on the motivation list as well to determine how severe. Like we're gonna roll a couple of things on this. It's not gonna be predetermined what happens. There probably will be an encounter. We're gonna start with an encounter. Someone breaks into the chamber. We roll for the encounter. We're gonna roll for distance, and we're gonna roll for motivation. So that's good. So we're gonna kind of start backwards on scenes, I think. So we're gonna have. So we know that they need to confront Mugdalblub with the Obsidian Witch Knife, with the Sphere of Annihilation, and the Well of Worlds. So in order to do that, they need to recover the Well of Worlds at Haldren's Tower. We know they need to escape Last Watch. They need to exit the Shimmering Valley / Vile Well. Are those the main beats? They escape Last Watch, they exit the Shimmering Valley, they go to the Haldren's Tower and recover the Well of Worlds. And then they go to Bittermold Keep with the Obsidian Witch Knife, the Sphere of Annihilation, and the Well of Worlds. I think those are the major beats of the story that remain. So then the question is like, how do they escape Last Watch? Well, they can leave the way they've come, which is exit through Nighthaven, the town of Nighthaven that they were at before, and the Vile Well. That could be very interesting. And we have some thoughts there. But then, so here's the deal. My players are like, oh, okay, well, maybe we can exit through that the way we came. But we also know that the Knights of Mugdalblub know that we were there. So that means we'd have to confront them. Maybe not, right? I haven't decided if the Knights are still there or not. So maybe they want another way out. So I kind of want to give them another way out. And I've been playing the expansion to Elden Ring. I'm a huge From Software, Dark Souls, Demon's Souls, and Elden Ring fan. I love kind of the feeling and the lore of how those games work. And there's a lot of like really cool dungeons and stuff like that. And I kind of want to give them another exit through an old ruin. The idea being that there is a huge elevator that a giant lift that can get them out of the Shimmering Valley from below and back up to the surface at a different spot on the surface. So what we can do is we can go look at, let's look at Cursed Scroll. I haven't really gone back to Cursed Scroll in a while, and say like, where would this, so 1403 would be an interesting one. They could show up there. They could show up at 1003 because that's pretty close. I'm looking for areas where, and 1401. So let's look at those and see 1401, 1003, over here would be where it would pop up. And then I want to see, like, are there locations here that might be interesting for a ruin that happen to be sunken below? So let's go to location. The Mud Pit. Muddy ravine as big as a galleon grapes in the wet earth. Deep within the swamp is the dragon Ixoden, slithers in the dark morass and devours living sacrifices as cultists hurl inside. Ixoden has grown large and arrogant. If not fed for a day, he bursts angrily from the pit to gulp down the near. So there's a big mud pit, and then there's a dragon that lives there named Ixoden. That might be fun. We could actually build a ruin inside the mud pit that Ixoden lives in, and the ruin has the elevator. If they come up the elevator, they're coming up through the back part of Ixoden's lair. That could be kind of neat. 1401 is an ancient cairn. Serenia was a mighty druid. And there's the +1 staff. That's not bad. And then there was like 1507. So there's the cultist camp. There's a cult of Ixoden. And a corrupted henge. A henge of standing stones has been shifted out of alignment by the roots of massive marrow tree. Spells are hard to cast within near distance of it. Inside the tree trunk rests Tygalore, a conjoined twin treat is two combined, that erupts forth when it smells. So that could be pretty cool too. Another Dralic. Dralics are kind of fun, and there'd be like another big demon thing. So what if... So that sounds good. But for this location, one thing I want to look at is like, what gods have I not touched upon that exist both in Shadowdark and in Cursed Scroll 1? So deities, we have Saint Tigarius, we did. Gedi, we touched on a little bit. Madeira the Covenant. We talked about her. Ord, the Unbending and the Wise. Memnon, Ramlot, Shun. And we could have another member of the Lost. So we could have another Temple of the Lost. Because there was a Shrine of the Lost. Forget, one of my players came up with one of the backstories for the Lost, but I have some stuff of the Lost, but we could have like a ruin of the Lost. But let's take a look at Cursed Scroll as well. I don't know if there's any other new deities in here that I haven't already used. Almazats we've used. Kytheros, Mugdalblub, Shroon the Vile, Titanio, the Willow Man. So the Willow Man we haven't done either, but I kind of like the idea of the Lost, that they have a temple down here. But I have to go back and we're going to have to go back through some old session notes here, back when we did that. So let's go back to June and see if we had. One of the losses is Mirinal, twin brother is Saint Taragnus. And Mirinal was the one whose name they spoke. So I think Mirinal has awoken. So we could have, I think this is fine. This is all fine. We could have a temple. So we'll make this a secret, but we got the temple, Forgotten Temple of Mirinal. So let's see. Followers of the Archangel Mirinal built a temple to them deep in the Shimmering Valley, not far from Last Watch. Within the Temple of Mirinal lies a lift that rises up to a ruin on the surface. The ruin is now the lair of the dragon, what do we say? Ixoden. So what was the ruin on the surface? Was it also to Mirinal, or was it the ruin on the surface was to their, I guess it could be a ruin of Saint Taragnus, their twin, right? Mirinal's twin. The ruin of Saint Taragnus, the ruined shrine of Saint Taragnus is now the lair of the dragon Ixodin. So that could be another path out. We would want to have a map for this. We're going to go to my Dyson map selector. This is a feature for patrons of Sly Flourish. They get access to this Dyson commercially licensed map gallery. And in it's a quick way for me to look for thumbnails of locations that will work well. We'll do 3 per page. It's got a nice little scroll bar to help you pick it. This one's kind of fun. Big isometric one. It looks gory. Look at that. It's like a potato masher. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to work. It's cool though. It's a temple and it's got a lift in it, but I can put the lift pretty much anywhere. One thing is, like, when you use a map like this, you don't have to use every room. You don't have to use every layout for it. I also don't know how big I want the thing to be. Probably not particularly big. I don't want a giant sprawling map that they have to crawl through in order to get to the lift. So this is probably a little too big. One of his like little index card ones would be great. Like this is small. That one's probably too small. It's funny, there was a map that I ran into here and I started using and realized I'd used it for the same group for another dungeon and nobody was the wiser. This one's kind of cool. It's got a lot of stuff going on and I could collapse some of this stuff, but it's a cool look. I think this will do fine. So we're going to save this one and put this to my desktop. No, we can do it in my Obsidian. No, we're not doing Obsidian. So we'll save that and we will create in a location and we will new page in and we will do it in my Gloaming under locations. Boom. And we will drop a map in here. So I've got that map to, I think this back chamber is where the lift will be, or maybe it could even be this, like the pool area in the lower left, depending on what I want to do. That could be, yeah, this could work fine. So I'm going to print it. And I can kind of fill it out as we go. I don't want to spend too much time on it because, like, I don't know if they're going to even pick this way, right? So I don't want to do too much. So I might have to think pretty heavily on my feet about the kind of things that they would find in these chambers, and maybe just treat it like a true, honest to God, random dungeon, right? Like, kind of figure it out piece by piece. This is the problem with not knowing exactly where your characters are going to go. But I've got that going. What other secrets? Oh, so one big secret. I think one thing that would be really fun is that this isn't a big secret that, like, oh, can anybody find this out? But Haldren lost his feelings when he became a lich. They are but shadows in his memory now. So as a lich, he is not good. He's probably more on the neutral side, but he's like, I know the pain that I felt when I saw Moragin die, but I don't feel it now. And I remember that I once loved Gwendolyn and once wanted to save this world, but I don't feel that now. And so they have to kind of convince him to work with them. And I think he could be falling quickly to the path of the dark side, because he is a lich. Like his soul, his being, his love, his they're gone. Like when he was now restored and he's now in this undead form, he has all of his memories and all of his powers and stuff like that. But his motivation's not exactly the same. It's still, he's only just become one, so it's not gone completely, but like they're going to have to do some convincing, I think. So one thing I wanted to kind of roll on, I thought this would be kind of fun, is the aggressiveness of the Knight of Mugdalblub. So I'm going to roll a 6-sided die, and on a 1, a 6 being more aggressive. So the lower it is, the more likely that the Knight of Mugdalblub went the other way, and the like, where are they? Where is this knight? And the closer to a 6, the closer they are to the characters. And I rolled a 3, so that'd be dead even. So I think, I think that, I gotta look up which knight. This is the Fire Giant Knight. Garavada Vol, the Fire Giant Knight, has left. He's still down there, is still in the Shimmering Valley, seeking the characters, but left Nighthaven because it wasn't necessary. Where are the other Knights of Vol? They're probably split up into like groups of 2. So King Kalish is probably, we'll roll randomly for this too, because that's fun, right? Rolling random is fun. So King Kalish is with either Ashra, Wind Whisper, or Clovilla. 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I rolled a 3. So so King Kalish is with Wind Whisper. And they are where? So some locations where they could be they could be at Bittermold Keep. They could be at that crappy village. The ones that the characters basically sacked. Marin's Hold. The Vile Well. The Tower, Haldron's Tower. Where else would they go? If you were the Knights of Mugdalblub and you were told, go find these people, where would they go? Let's see, any other kind of... Wardenwood would be another one. And Aklaklik, the Goblin Village, would be a 6. So, King Kalish and Wind Whisper are at 5. They're at Wardenwood. And where is the other group? Is Ashra and Clovilla. They're at the Vile Well. Okay, cool. So that could be dangerous. I like that list. I might keep this. Because then the other one is, where is what's his name? The dragon, the Mugdalblub ooze dragon, who was named after one of the characters, Veridsbane, is at Haldron's Tower. That makes sense. Where can I put that list so I have it handy? I'll just make a new one. There, I'll just keep that in a little page. So we've got some villains and where they are. What else is going on? Oh, so we want some stuff with Mirinal. So Mirinal has awoken after having their name spoken aloud and now resides in the Forgotten Temple with the lift to the ruined shrine of Saint Teragnus. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. One more secret. Any other secrets? What else do we need? What else has been going on up in the surface world while this has been happening? What's going on with Titania? Oh, I need a new patron. One thing I want to do is like introduce a new patron or maybe a couple of patrons. Probably Gwendolyn. I think Gwendolyn will be kind of the spirit of Gwendolyn will speak to the characters about the need to save the world. So I'm going to make a new patron who is Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn is sort of like the kind of the daughter of, or instantiation or avatar of Shun the Vile, or just Shun the Witch. And she wants to save, she's the last entity that wants to save the Gloaming. And she will be the new patron for any new characters. So she will say like, hey, I think from here on out, any new character will have been spoken to by Gwendolyn as like, you are a hero that can help save the world from the destruction of Mugdalblub. You have to join these groups. You have to do these things. And that way, all of their quests, any new character, any deaths, any refreshes, Gwendolyn will always be the one to guide them to the story of the campaign. I think, and I could just tell the players that's happening. So I think we're going to do that. So Gwendolyn has become untethered from Moragin and now can speak to I can't spell worth a damn, to the heroes of the Gloaming. So I think that's a good, solid way to keep things moving. So we have Haldron the Lich, we have Gwendolyn, mother of Moragin and Avatar and champion of Avatar of Shun. We have Mirinal, the fallen archangel. That could be deadly. We have Haldron the Lich, and we have the Knights of Mugdalblub, King Kalish, Wind Whisper, Ashara, Clovilla, and Garavad. Cool. Monsters we're not going to worry about. I'm keeping my last watch encounters. I keep that handy. Treasure re-roll as we go, so I don't have to worry about that. So I have got my notes. I'm going to put some line breaks in here so things go out well. We are all set. So, friends, I want to thank all of you for hanging out today while I prepared for my role-playing game. We will see how it goes. I think we're on that speeding downward move, I think. closing in on the end of this campaign. I'm excited for it. And we will see how things go. Thank you once again for hanging out with me. If you enjoyed this show, the best thing you can do to keep up with my work is to join the Sly Flourish newsletter. There is a link in the show notes. It's absolutely free to sign up. You get a weekly RPG-related article to your inbox, and you get a free PDF generator. You can also please go be notified upon the launch of the City of Arches sourcebook for Kickstarter, coming out to Kickstarter on August 6th. Please sign up, and also please tell your friends, tell your favorite GMs about it, send them a link to it, and have them sign up as well. That's huge help. And again, you can pick up my other stuff on the Sly Flourish bookstore, and you can join the fellow Lazy GM community over on Patreon. All of the links for those are in the show notes. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you next week. Take care, and have a great day, and get out there and play an RPG.